Praise God. His strength is perfect. First time I've heard that song, Annie. And today, none other than Pastor Josh Young is going to give us his perspective of God calling on his life. And once again, we're going to continue in asking people to come and share with us what God did in their lives regarding his calling. After people give their lives to Jesus, there's a tremendous calling that God has for their lives. And so we really want to hear how that happened. And so he's had some great stories, and we're expecting that from Josh Young today. And so here he is.
Thank you kindly for that. Oh, man. It's nice to be here this morning. A little bit about myself, just the brief bio. I'm Josh. I'm 38 years old, married to Jessica, my beautiful, smoking hot wife. And we got 4 kids, Zeke, Lucy, Vivian, and Iona, who just turned 1 yesterday. We live here in Santa Monica, California, and been here for quite some time. And so the topic is the call, and your vocation, God's calling on your life. What are you supposed to be doing or being? I just thought it would be interesting because we're on a live stream platform for the couple of people that are online, like the Canes, Kathy and Ray. If you have any questions at the end of the at the live stream, just post them in the live chat, and we could just answer them right there. And so that would be interesting if you put a couple question marks in there, so I know to answer it. If you have any questions, if I didn't cover anything that you know about my life or you want to ask, we can do that. And Lord help us, Felipe's watching as well. So, God, we pray for the Canes, for their patience as Felipe's there, that you would help them. Amen. And so, talking about the call and pursuit of what God wants you to do in your life. And I could say that has taken place, if I were to sum it up in a word, I would say it's the word mentorship. And that's a lot of what this Lighthouse University is about. Apprenticeship of becoming who you're supposed to be. And it was mainly being mentored by my fathers. Becoming like them helped me find my own life calling and personal ministry direction. See, my biological father, he's a medical doctor. What's his vocation? His sole purpose is to mend and restore people. My spiritual father, Pastor Rob Scribner, right, and also my father-in-law at the Lighthouse Church, his purpose is to build big people, to make them spiritually whole. And I've been taught in finding what are you supposed to do with your life. One of the things that is helpful is to find out what your fathers did. Even Jesus did this. Jesus, as a carpenter following in the ways of his father, did that. Luke 2:29, John 4:34, be about your father's business. And so I myself, Josh Young, I'm shaped by the business of my fathers. And it's their influence on my life that created and nurtured a desire in me to help people become all that God has in store for them. And so I had a revelation about this word wholeness, becoming whole, W-H-O-L-E. And because that's what my biological father does, that's what my spiritual father does. And so I'm about being whole. The biggest life change that took place in my life took place in February 2012. I'm not going to give you my entire life story, but in February 2012, I was working at an engineering firm that I had worked at for the previous 13 years. And I had started working there halfway through my high school year, through community college at Santa Monica College, went to UCLA, studied history, and even though I studied history and political science, this engineering firm hired me full-time, and it was basically doing electrical engineering type of work. And here is the interesting thing, though I started as an office assistant there, I just kept working, and, one of the bosses there realized, hey, here's a kid going to UCLA, he can think, right? And he's just licking stamps and stuffing envelopes. Let's get him working in our department. And so I basically became an apprentice to a man that's been doing this particular trade for 20 years. And here was the thing. I knew nothing. He knew I knew nothing. And so all I did was ask questions. What do you do? And so you just humbly come and say, hey, I don't know what to do. Teach me. Don't act like you know it all. And if you don't know something, ask. And that was one of the things that I just did. And so I went up the company chain, got a pay raise every year, moving up. By the time, February 2012 come around, I was like a junior project manager. I was just starting to do a project or two on my own. And then, but during this time, at the end of 2011, beginning of 2012, something was happening in my own life. I wasn't settled. I wasn't feeling fulfilled, I guess is the right word. And so, there are times when I'm driving into work and I'm just so stressed out about my job, I'm literally dry heaving on the way to work before I even get there. And, just really stressed out. I lost, at least 10 pounds. Just not, it wasn't healthy. And I'm not a guy, I can't really lose the 10 pounds, And, if you want to diet, stress yourself out, that's my tip for you. And so, my wife, she's realizing, hey, something's not right with Josh, and realizing, I'm stressed out, sort of not happy. And so, I'm finally talking to my wife about what's going on, and I make this statement. I said, I don't think I want to die. And on my tombstone it says, here lies Josh Young, a great engineer, yada, yada, as if that was going to be my epitaph on my tombstone, just this one statement of, hey, here he's defined by what he does. And I didn't think I wanted that on my tombstone. And my wife, very wise and smart, and she said, Josh, that's not going to be on your tombstone. It's going to say, here lies Josh Young, loving husband, wonderful father, great Christian. And that brought a lot of freedom right there because, hey, you realize that, and you can understand, I can do that anywhere. I could be a toll booth operator if that's my calling, to be a husband, father, and a Christian. I can do that anywhere. And so another thing what's taking place, little discontent about my life's purpose. I wanted to help people. Remember, I'm at this engineering firm, and I'm sitting in front of a computer all day, every day, not that much interaction with others. There's some coworkers, and I did get out to some job sites a couple of times, right? There is also another thing that's taking place while I was feeling discontent. There is a need that was showing up at the church, specifically at the high school, for some additional administrative work. And the skill set that I had developed at the engineering firm of project management and doing these things, that would help enable me to speed up this administrative backlog that was going on, over there. Another thing that took place was I had been given an opportunity to start working with the Santa Monica Fire Department to start a chaplain program. My wife, emergency room nurse at Santa Monica Hospital, she was working there, and the firemen, they come in every day bringing their patients, and one day some firemen came in and they said, hey, Jessica, your husband's a pastor, right? And that sort of took her off guard, how do you know my personal business? And she said, yeah, and we want to start a chaplain program. Would he be interested in being one of the chaplains? And she said, sure, why not? So she signed me up. And what happened is, they got a call. And so I had a desire to want to be available and useful for them, and that would not be possible. I wouldn't be as available working at the engineering firm. Another thing that's going on is I had heard a statement someone had said to me that resonated in my life. And that statement was that a person needs to take a major risk by the time they're 30 years old. And after 30, people have much more responsibilities and it becomes harder to risk it all in the big gamble of life. By the time I was 30, I had been already married for several years. I had a mortgage. I had 2 kids. And so it was a significant time in my life. And so, here I am. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm discontent, wanting to do the chaplain thing. There is a need that opened up with the church. And then in the midst of all this, I call this all the perfect storm. Right at that, at that time period, a financial miracle took place in my life where my interest-only loan got cut, in half. So I was saving thousands of dollars every single month when that took place. And so when that financial miracle took place, I said, hey, this is the opportunity to now work for the church, to take the pay cut, the benefit cut, and to come here. And so I left this secure job with a promising upward mobility only a few days right at my 30th birthday. And so that was what took place in my life. Just this feeling of discontent, wanting to be available. There was a need, and I wanted to fulfill it, and going on with that. So right at that time, I had come to this understanding of this concept about a person's aegis, A-E-G-I-S, an aegis. And it's the realm of influence. And trying to understand this, trying to understand what are your realms of influence that you have so you can focus your energy on these things so you can be more effective. And so trying to identify these pillars in my life, I've identified 6 pillars in my life. And so this is right after that time of leaving my job, now working for the church, specifically for the high school. And I have 6 roles that I identify myself at. My role of 1 being myself, a husband, a father, the Lighthouse Christian Academy, the Lighthouse Church, and then the Santa Monica Fire Department. And so every single week, I utilize a weekly calendar, and I have it in my bag over there, and you open up the page, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And at the top of my weekly calendar, I write down my 6 realms of influence, my 6 pillars: me, husband, father, LCA, LHC, SMFD. And the point is that if I know that these are my 6 areas of influence, I want to make sure I touch them each week, okay? So that way I know I'm being effective in what I can influence. And so I don't want to neglect certain areas. Now, I know it's the LCA or LHC that provides the paycheck, but I don't want to neglect, the kids, wife, Santa Monica Fire Department, or myself, because these are important areas of influence, right? And working on yourself, the me category, is almost one of the most important. And you could say it's selfish to have the me time, but it's the whole concept of sharpening the saw. If you don't sharpen the saw, you're going to be ineffective and burnt out. I would actually argue that you are more selfish to not sharpen the saw, because then you're not going to be helping others, because a better you will make better others. As you work on yourself, everyone around you will be improved because you're working on yourself. So it's, you have to spend time working on your spiritual life, working on your intellectual life, working on your social life. And it's not just, hey, honey, I'm going to cut and run. I need the me time. Sharpen the saw. Okay, so you got to, work it out with your wife. This is the appropriate scheduled time. Don't just leave right when it's time to, she's losing it with the kids. And so make sure you do that. You schedule and coordinate it. And so make sure that you have these energies that you work on for the different roles. Hey, and if you can twofer some of these things where it's like, I'm going to exercise with my kid, hey, killing two birds with one stone, I'll go for it, right? Synergize those things. The point is, you're trying to live a life of fullness and fulfillment and fruitfulness, the F's right there. And that's what you're trying to do. You recognize your spheres of influence and working on those things. Another thing that really blessed my life, I had taken a class while working on a master's degree, and that class required me to write down a mission and vision statement. For the first time, I had to write this down. And these two sentences were probably the most thoughtful and most important experiences that I took place through that whole master's degree, to write these things down. Now, I could have vocally said what my mission in life was. My mission is to love God and love people and love life, right? Love God, love people. That's the two great commandments that Jesus gave us. That's what we're supposed to do. Love life. That comes from C.S. Lewis, who said that joy is the serious business of heaven. God is serious about joy, right? Fruit of the Spirit. So smile out there and love life. It's not a bum trip. God hasn't given up on us yet. So loving God, love people, love life. But I had just thought about those things. I hadn't written those down, but you think about those things. I had to utilize a textbook to clarify my unwritten mission statement. And you realize, hey, that was only, you could almost say it was focused on me. I love God. I love people. Yeah, I know it's supposed to be others, but it's me. But again, remember, I was having this revelation or thought about wholeness. What is, my biological father, my spiritual father? How am I going to truly help people? So my mission that I wrote down, my mission statement at this time, it can always be edited and revised, right? My mission is to enhance, inspire, and support wholeness for myself and others, right? And I believe that word wholeness does encompass everything about the business of my fathers. It encapsulates that trifold mission of before: loving God, loving people, loving life, right? Because a whole person will be all that God created them to be. A whole person will be about God's mission and his purposes. And so I also had to write down a mission statement. And so what I did is I ripped off another church who had a mission statement, and I thought it was pretty good. And so that's what it is. My vision. So mission is what I do. My mission is what I do. My vision is what I see as, this is the goal. This is what success looks like. And your vision has to be big enough that it's never attainable, because you got to keep going for it. And so my vision is to see transformed lives renewing the world around them for Christ. My vision is to see transformed lives renewing the world around them for Christ. And so what I do on my weekly calendar, I list those two things along with my 6 realms of influence: wholeness, transformed lives renewing the world for Christ, husband, father, LHC, LCA, SMFD. You'll see that every single week. It's up there on the top, trying to touch each one of those as I go throughout, and I just look at it on a weekly schedule, right? I'm trying to schedule these 6 roles so I can be constantly reminded about my purpose, what I should be doing. And so it's like a written epitaph that I'm written on my tombstone but I'm doing it now. And so that's the big question that we have. What is that one sentence you want on your tombstone? What is that one sentence you want to encapsulate your life? And then start doing it today. And I guess the thoughtful question would be, hey, at the end of the day or at the beginning of the next day or whatever it is, just say, hey, how can I do that better than the day before? You know, if that's what I want to be remembered by or what my goal is, then let's remind myself and write it down every single day. You know, I'm just reading today, this morning, my morning devotional, doing my soap, Isaiah 42, verse 1 to 9. And so 3 times it's talking about God's servant and he's bringing justice. 3 times he's talking about justice. And what is justice? You're making wrongs right. You're recreating the world and you're setting the wrongs to right. You're bringing wholeness to the world, right? And so this, here's God who's, to put right in order, and we are to be putting right people for the world. And that's, my desire, to flourish as God always intended, bringing healing, justice, peace, right? Just as it says there for Jesus, the servant. And so for me, I do feel fulfilled. There was that discontent while working at the engineering firm. I didn't have a great grasp on life mission. Now, you can ask myself, Josh, now that you know that about yourself, could you still work at the engineering firm? Yes, I believe I could. And because I know my mission is not, hey, to be a great engineer one day. Hey, it's to support wholeness for myself and others, my coworkers, and these things. It's a dangerous divide when you start separating jobs as, hey, this is a secular job and this is a sacred job. We need to realize every job is sacred. I am grateful for engineers. Why? Because I like high-speed internet and electricity and a roof over my head. We need engineers. We need bakers. We need these people, and it is sacred, right? There's only one way to make bread. It didn't go like pop, pop, fizz, fizz, and all of a sudden it appears. We need people working, and this is God in us working to do these things. Everything is sacred. God in me doing these things. And so, but though I'm not at the engineering firm now, I do feel fulfilled what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I do sit in front of a computer a lot doing administrative work, but my whole outlook has changed about what I'm doing and for whom I am doing it for, right? And so my daily prayer has changed, that my spirit would join with the Holy Spirit to become more like Christ, to reflect the Father. The daily prayer is usually phrased with the words, God, help me to know you more so I can love you better. God, help me to be all that you've created me to be. And so as a Christian, I have a commitment to lifelong learning, to enrichment, and along the way, I'm going to become more like Christ, right? Become doing more of the ministry that he has for me. It's this wholeness that I experience will be the wholeness I can inspire and support others to have, thus fulfilling my personal mission. And so doing that, it'll be inevitable to see transformed lives renewing their world because of Christ's work in me and in those that I'm privileged to minister to. And so, that's an interesting question. The question that has been asked, who has God created you to be? Who has God created you to be? If it's about God, start with prayer. God, who have you developed me to be? If God has created you to be something, then part of it is genetic. Part of it is the business of the fathers, and so you have particular DNA and skills and temperament, right? And so maybe it's doing a strengths finder test. Maybe it's doing a temperament test, finding out, hey, this is my skill set. And the interesting part about it, the last part, who has God created you to be? The question is not what has God created you to do? Who has God created you to be? Focus on that, and it really doesn't matter what you do. It's who are you becoming? And, I can only think, as back in the World War II group, is that generation is like, hey, I got to make a living. It's just money, I'm not trying to follow a passion, because that might not make a lot of money. I'm just trying to provide for the family. It's really this younger generation, mine and younger, that's more of like, I got to be fulfilled. I got to be doing, my passion and so forth. I would say worry about what has God created you to be and becoming more like Christ. And so, and that will be a great help for you. And then as you're becoming, you're going to try to understand, that there are some things that you will not help you be as effective as others. And so I might not have been as an effective minister at that engineering firm as I am now working at the high school or for the church. My ministry is larger here, so you might want to focus on that. Where can you be a bigger wrecking ball for Jesus? You want to make impact in this life. You're not, one wrecking ball is not more valuable than the others, but you can make a bigger dent depending upon where you go and working on yourself and building yourself up and understanding who you are. And so, who has God created you to be? And so that has been my life. Spiritual father, biological father, and who has God created you to be? Wholeness, see transformed lives, renewing world for Christ. That's me. Any questions out there? How can I be a bigger wrecking ball for Jesus? Ask Felipe. You know what? If it's all about Jesus, you're praying and you do want to work on yourself. I work on your Christian character, the spiritual disciplines. You also want to realize, hey, who are the people that you have influence upon? You might not have influence in one industry, and so you want to realize who you have influence on and focus your energies in that realm and not the realm that you don't have, influence on. I'm not going to make a lot of influence with the basketball players. I'm not the baller. I'm not the, huge guy and so forth. That might not be my realm of influence, so I might not spend all my energies there. And so that is something that you want to consider. I think that's it for now. The difference between what you want to do and what you want to be. That's a great question. How can I pick the right influencer? The difference between what you do, what brings home the bacon, what makes your money, and what you want to be. Now, I'm not saying that you can just do anything. The issue, not every work is good and holy and sacred, right? There are some immoral and unethical things that to do. But who do I want to become is the one sentence. And that's the one sentence. And can you do that one sentence at your current workplace? Can you do that one sentence at the place that's paying your salary? For myself, hey, it's to inspire wholeness, but what's my day job? I teach high school kids about the government and economics. And I can say for myself, that is bringing wholeness to their life. They are understanding more of the ways of how our country is, lived. They're more whole than they were before. I also teach the Bible class. I do the administrative work here at the church, and I'm bringing wholeness, maybe indirectly, but I'm supporting the ministry that is helping to bring wholeness to other people's life. And so, that's what I would say. Are you able to be at the place of what you do? Is that helpful or no? Or can you give me a more specific question? How can you pick the right influencer? It's a great question. I would say look at other people, and the question is, or the thought is, what's their track record? And just, what are you doing right? There are some things, I'm sitting in front of a couple people here, Pastor Rob, Lisa Clancy, Mike Hagoski, Annie, And so I might not just come up to him and say, hey, I want to be your disciple, and I'm going to, sit at your feet and mimic every single thing that you do. That puts a lot of stress on the other person. I might just come up to him and say, Mike, you've been married a lot of years. Can I just take you out for a cup of coffee, and I just have a couple of questions about what makes you, such a good spouse? And, it's more like the mentorship. Can you teach me, about these things? And Pastor Rob, you were very successful at counseling. And, you got people and you have influence in these things. You're very passionate about life. And what gives you that drive? And just coming up to them and say, you're looking at track record and say, this is what is very successful. I might go up to a business person. I might go up to Chris Christian or Nick Gallucci, I don't know, somebody, and just say, man, teach me, what are the 5 things about the construction industry that, the normal person doesn't know that I should know. And, that would help me out. And so what makes you so stinking successful? And so that can help me be a better me. What are other people missing out on? All right. Pastor Rob, you were going to ask a question. What is this? Changed when you were stressed. Was that God's calling? What does that mean? Can you? Yeah.
You had that risk thing happen, and with perfect storm, financial miracle, this kind of thing, and that all was would you say that was how God influenced the change, or, we're talking about God's calling?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
For sure.
your thought about everybody has the ability to do something.
Right.
For God.
Mm-hmm.
There is maybe sometimes a convergence.
Yes. I mean, for me, I am a very safe person. I'm not the first person to jump off a bridge. I'm watching 10 other people do it first and make sure they live. And I am very cautious and wanting to be secure. Like I said, I think that was one of the things that made me marryable at a young age, getting married at 22, right? Because I had a consistent job, the same job. I wasn't changing jobs. And so I'm a very safe person. And I think for God to reach me, I think he needed that big storm in my life to get my attention. There's other people that are so sensitive to God's calling that they don't need that. And so the point of all of this morning is not for you to become Josh Young. Because for you to do that, hey, your parents got to get divorced when you're 5. You got to be raised by a bunch of women. You got to live in an attic for 3 years. You got to, marry a pastor's daughter. That's not the point of the story. And God's calling for each and every one of our lives is going to come differently. It's going to come differently. And so this isn't, hey, I'm going to follow that calling and how he got it, and I'm going to wait till that, happens in my life. But yes, for me in my life, that little perfect storm, I felt, hey, this is God moving me out into the high school, into the church. And so I feel healthy. I am healthier. I am happier. It took me several months to get over that stressful change and the night terrors and the other things and all of the other things, thinking that my boss was going to call me up or something like that. But I am healthier and happier. Does that mean I'm never stressed now or never worry about my life's calling or what I'm going to do in the future? No, it doesn't mean that. Am I doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing for the rest of my life? No, I don't think so. What if another opportunity comes forward? It's really interesting. I don't think this is, I think this is true. I never asked for any of these things in my life. I never asked to be a chaplain. I never asked to, hey, join the church. I never asked to be the church administrator. I didn't ask for the pay raises. I just worked hard and I stayed faithful to what I was supposed to be doing. And then God brought this in. I've mentioned this to someone else. There is a lot of times that I have felt like a passenger in a car. and that God's been driving. And like, how did I end up here? I'm 38, married, it'll be 16 years, this summer. Got, the wife, the kids. I never would have thought I'd be a principal of the school I graduated from after working, at an engineering firm and, have the opportunity to be a chaplain with the Santa Monica Fire Department. Never would I have dreamed. I didn't want these things. To be a worship leader and so forth. And so it is, I've had that sensation, God, what are you going to do in my life? And so I'm open to that now. It's not that I'm looking for where the grass is greener, but I'm going to make the grass green where I walk. And so until that time something else changes, I'm going to, just be faithful and committed and work my butt off. Here I am, right? And so I've heard someone say, work as hard as you can as if everything depends on you, but then also pray as hard as you can, knowing that everything depends upon God. And that's what I do. I try to work hard that, hey, if there ever needed to be people cut from a job, that I wouldn't be the first person. I just try to be a blessing and just, work as hard as I can. One of the questions, at what point did you come to terms with financial peace in terms of a major pay cut? Well, at first it was nice. When I left the engineering firm to work for the high school, my wife was still a part-time worker at the emergency room, and so we had that, and so she was making good money. But then, so I left February 2012. Come September, my wife is getting stressed out and anxious, and she's having her own turmoil, and she says, why do you get to leave your job and I can't leave mine? And I said, that's pretty fair. And so in October, she left her job. So we went from 2 high-paying jobs to now sole income on a reduced benefit, pay cut, all that on me working for the church. Now we're back to the financial stress. At that time, we were living off of savings, just dwindle it. And just because we had that sensation or the understanding we're doing what God's supposed to be, what God wants us to do right now. God's got to take care of us. Just that simple faith. And you know what? Then I got a pay raise, and then I got more pay raises. Hey, and then what did I do? I took on a part-time job working as the administrator for the church, right? Because I needed the income. It wasn't because I felt like, oh, this is God's calling. No, I needed money, pay for things. And so that was that. Work hard, and it's not always enjoyable. And, but I know I'm pursuing God's mission and vision for my life. When did I come to terms with the financial peace? Just when I'm going through that, and, I got some pay raises, and then trying to live financially healthy in the sense that I'm living below my means, right? I spend less than I make. You tithe and you save, and then you spend the rest, right? And so that's financial peace, knowing that, hey, I have a cushion over here, and I could live off that. It was faith at the moment to dwindle that. And then I slowly build it up when I could. And praise the Lord, it's helped us out. And that's financial peace. God's going to take care of you, but then also have the smarts to put money away in case you need it. So that way you can do these faith jumps, right? It's hard to do a faith jump if you're bound in debt. You're not going to go real far, It's easier to do a faith jump if you have a little cushion. Easier. Not saying that you can't. I'm not saying you can't do it. It just makes it easier. All right. Thanks for the practicality. Those are the other ones. All right. Well, blessings to you. Thank you so much for listening to me. And that's me. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And I'm just a phone call, email away, joshwyoung@gmail.com. And we'll do that. Talk to you later. Thanks, Pastor Rob. Are we ending it? Are you coming up and talking? No. Hey, we're done. Out.